And, I kind of talked about it before. Let's talk about Jake Ryan, Scott McVey. We kind of talked about those other guys that really make this class so good. But Jake Ryan, he comes in this year, 104 tackles, 8 sacks. You saw him quite a bit. You were a student manager there on the football team, Paul. Tell me a little bit about what he meant to this team, both on the field, off the field.
Well, Coach Ryan Franzinger, as you mentioned him earlier, the linebacker coach for this Ignatius squad, who was a walk-on player at Ohio State, he knows the linebacker position very well. He's one of the best. Coach Franzinger is one of the best linebackers in Wildcat history, and he also coached who you could say are also two of the best linebackers in the history, along with a guy like Steve Bigecka in Jake Ryan and Scott McVey. I mean, they both understand their position very well. A little bit of a different side for both of them. I mean, they're both obviously very strong and very physical players. Jake has been regarded as the more explosive one. As Coach Franzinger put it, he understands the violence. The violent aspect of being a linebacker very well. Jake is extremely physical. He is extremely vocal. I mean, we've seen him make some hits this season that are just absolutely bone-jarring. He's really big, really strong, listed at about 6'3", probably closer to 6'4", 6'5", when he's got his cleats and his helmet on. So he's obviously a very big kid. He's not somebody you want to take a hit from. But then there's no way you could ever forget about somebody like Scott McVey, who will probably go down as the best linebacker in Wildcat history in terms of overall numbers. The adversity he overcame this season with both injuries that he had to suffer, the same injury but just a repeat of it against Glenville both times. I mean, Scott is a phenomenal player. He understands the position as well as anybody who's ever played it. And on top of his physical side, which he obviously excels at, he is very, very smart. He understands offenses and defenses. He can read an offense very well, and he just knows how to play that linebacker position to a T.
And now you talk about that, and in all reality, outside of football, let's completely leave football out of the equation. You still have 11 different guys going to college here as student athletes out of Saint Ignatius High School this season. And you look at a guy like Jack McClendon, and he's one guy we're going to have on next week, and Jerome Robinson, and a lot of these guys that don't get all the praise that you often see heaped on some of these guys. But I absolutely love watching Jack pitch. It seems like it's an art form. You look at Jerome on the mats. He's at 119 this year. You love watching these guys, and it's kind of tough to not get the recognition because a lot of people don't go to wrestling and baseball, and they see basketball and football on the court and on the field. You and I both see a lot of this, especially now that we do hockey and baseball and soccer, and we get to see more of this, and some of these athletes are incredibly explosive with what they do, and it's an absolute pleasure to watch them play.
Well, that's one of the things that's so great about Mike this class, is even if you took all the football players out of this equation, you would still have a very, very successful recruiting class. I mean, especially with baseball and wrestling, two sports that are sort of overshadowed, especially in the state of Ohio with how big football is. I mean, Jerome Robinson and Dave Habit, both individual state champions from last year. I mean, they're some of the best wrestlers in the country. They're both picked to win states in their class this year. Jerome, only 119 pounds. I can personally attest that he has the tightest grip in the grade. I mean,
I'm trying to say it's near Adrian Peterson.
Really, go ask him. Shake his hand and ask him to squeeze as hard as he can, Mike. I mean, it's frightening. But a kid is so strong. His technique is flawless. He knows exactly how to do.
His wrestling.
Yes. But no, for his wrestling, Jerome and Dave, they both know how to get inside their opponent's heads. They can read their opponent. They sort of feel them up, if you will, for the first little part of the match, and then they figure out where they have to go from there. They're very smart, and they really, really know what to do. If they get themselves in a situation, they know how to get out of it. And then let's shift over to baseball real quick. Jack McClendon, Mike Burke, the two baseball players making commitments today. Jack obviously being 6'5", 6'6" out there on the mound, very, very intimidating with his size out there. Very good pitcher, very sound. And then Burke broke the Ignatius record for batting average last year, so he obviously knows what he's doing on the offensive side as well. So that's very big to have. And Burke's also pitched actually a little, and he's been very successful at it. So it's nice to have those guys who are sort of two-dimensional, especially on the baseball field in high school, because you don't really have, you need a guy who can hit and play defense very well. You need transitional guys on the baseball team who can play multiple positions. So that's really great there for a player like Mike or for a player like Jack who can play multiple positions.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and cut the stream here for just a minute. We're going to come back with a couple interviews, and hopefully we can get Kyle Kamik up here in a minute. Mike Burke will be joining us, and hopefully we can have all that for you in just a couple minutes. So this is the Wildcat National Signing Day coming to you from the Breen Center on the campus of Saint Ignatius High School. Mike Watts, Jake Korg, and Paul Martin have all the action for you. We'll return in just a moment with the live interviews.